Hold on, everybody. Of course. All right. I'm here. Good to see you all. Let me just open my YouTube comments. Okay. Alright. So, we got Dangerous Brian here. We have Malibu Company, Tyler, how's it going? Kevin says, have you heard about USS Texas being towed to Galveston for repairs? I don't really follow military vessels, so I do remember reading a headline or something about a military vessel, but it could have been the Enterprise, so I'm not really sure. Mark, how's it going? Hey Alex, lovely to join you again as I work from home. First day of spring here in OZ. OZ? I don't know what OZ is. Hey Daniel, how's it going? Oh, my chat's not keeping up with everybody's comments. Let me see. Here we go. Hello Thomas. Fun that it's had to leave as soon as he arrived. Hello, Hope for Change. So, normally for these tea times, I prepare some pastries and a tea sandwich or something. I do not have the ingredients for a tea sandwich. Those ingredients do not last long. So they have to be timed perfectly with my grocery order, and I just didn't need groceries this week, so... and then I would have made crumpets, I just didn't have time. What I did have, and this is what is really sad, so I have to order the, what do you call them? The McVitie's tea biscuits, the chocolate-covered tea biscuits. The ones I usually keep on this plate. I have to order those because, you know, they are imported. And sometimes when I get them, they're completely melted together. They're like, sometimes with chocolate you can kind of salvage it a little bit if you kind of, you know, if you play with the temperature a little bit, you can kind of separate cookies that are stuck together. These are not separatable. They are just completely mushed together. So I was literally taking a knife and picking at them, and now you see this is the result. Just these broken up little shreds of biscuits, and there's a whole order of them. There's 4 of these cartons of them because I place a big order at the same time. So that was pretty disappointing because it's not a seller's issue. It's not even a delivery issue. You know, it wasn't part of the grocery order, so they weren't required to keep it with ice or anything. Like, it was just a imported order from Amazon, and so they got stuck, and there's nothing I can do about it, so... But that's one of the things that kind of sucks. So the only pastry I had available today, because I didn't even have time last night to make Scottish shortbread. I usually make a whole new batch of it, and I didn't even have time. So the only pastry I had was these digestives, and they were just completely like welded together. So sad day for Alex, but that's okay. Let's go ahead and preheat these. Have to empty out about half of the hot tap water. Alrighty. And then we top it off with the boiling water just to bring up the temperature. And as you can probably hear, Mr. Squeaky is squeaking again. So, what are people asking? Oz is Australia. That makes sense. And Z is New Zealand. That one I know, but OZ, that's funny. I never heard of it. Okay. Ryan says, do you know what day RMS Titanic was launched? No. May 31st, 1911, says Tyler. I'm having difficulty seeing today. Tyler's like, well, don't blame me. Alex doesn't like to talk about Titanic. That's true. I do not like to talk about Titanic. Ryan's Daily Memes. Yes, go ahead and ask me a question. That's exactly what this tea time is for people to be able to talk. Nicolaus, thank you so much for the $5. Dreadnought battleship USS Texas in the port of Galveston for repair/servicing. Very happy about such. What do you think they'll be doing to her? It's a battleship? Let's see. Well, I don't follow naval ships, so I have like no clue about them. I've been on a few of them, but I don't think I've ever been on a battleship. USS Texas. That does sound familiar. That kind of reminds me of... There's one in... I forget where. But it's really old, and it might be the same one. Port of Galveston. Yeah, that might be the same one I'm thinking of. I mean, I have no idea what's wrong with the USS Texas, so I couldn't say I know, like, what they'll be doing. I don't really follow Navy ships. I'm really more of, if any ship at all, ever, it would be ocean liners. Because it's not that they're a ship, it's that they're beautiful. And they're these beautiful, like, machines designed to transport people. I've always loved stuff that transports people, you know, like, even, with trains. I'm not just any train fan. I like trains because of the passenger service. There's just something kind of cool about things that move people, you know. Yeah, so about Mr. Squeaky. So a couple weeks back, I bought a very special electrically conductive lubricant designed specifically for strange cases like this, where the axles are the things that are making the noise. And the axles, they need to be, whatever you put on them has to be electrically conductive, because the axles that are making the noise are the ones that are electrically conductive. And so I had to buy a special, like, electrically conductive lubricant for that. And it seems that every single time I want to run the engine, it's like, without a doubt, it only lasts 24 hours. Every single time I want to run the engine, I have to re-oil it. And I'm like, there's something wrong with this. Because when it comes to the machines, the lubricants, they should last more than 24 hours. Like, that's weird that they don't. So I have no idea why this engine requires constant lubrication. I have no idea. And it's really annoying me, because it's like I don't have the time every time I want to run the engine to pick it up and then take out the bottle and, you know, and oil the whole thing up. Like, I don't have the time for that. So it's just like, I don't get it. And I tried reading the label. I tried to see, like, is it like a temporary kind of lubricant? Is it designed to dry up or something? And I have no clue. I have no clue whatsoever. But you'll see me in a few minutes oil it up, because I cannot stand this squeaking. I cannot do it. It's annoying. All right, let's see here. We'll go back here. Ryan says, do you know what day the Queen Mary set sail on the maiden voyage? Set sail, I believe May 20... Was it May or March? It's the 27th of either March or May, I cannot remember, of 1936. And the reason why I can't remember is because my birthday's in May, so every time I hear a March date, I always think May. So, I don't know. It's one of those two, but it's the 27th of 1936. Either March or May. Skeptic says May 27th. Yeah, see, there you go. Like, it, I always get confused. Sisters. Yeah, Daniel, I read your comment before. I don't know how to respond to that. I mean, people just say sister ships for some reason. You know, sometimes they just don't know what sister ship means. So, hello, Goofy Rolls. Wowzer says, as a British person, I can say that Alex has a good taste in tea. Thank you. Yeah, today is going to be English breakfast tea. So I am really excited for that. Actually, it should be time to start brewing. So what's funny, for those of you who drink tea, if you're, Australian, New Zealand, or British, or Indian. Some Indians drink just black tea, but not a lot of Americans own kettles. So it's not a thing we do here. We don't need them. So it's actually kind of funny because most of the American people who are watching probably don't even know, like half the time they look at this, they're like, what's that thing in the corner? I'm like, it's a kettle for heating water, because nobody needs them here. They're not useful for anything. So so yeah, I just thought that was kind of funny. Nicolaus says USS Texas, very last Pearl Harbor style battleship with the tripod masts. Launched 1913. Shelled the Nazis / Mussolini relentlessly. 105 years old. Wow, that's pretty cool, actually. Yeah, a friend of mine was talking to me about USS Texas. So that's how I know the name. Alright. Tea goes in for 5 minutes. This is English breakfast tea, so I prefer to brew it at its longest brewing time. I just like it, the English breakfast tea, strong. So 5 minutes, so 4:19. I can go over there. Alright. Daniel says, hey Alex, would love to have a privately owned narrow gauge steam locomotive, even though it's a lot to work on. I mean, yeah, I would love it too, but yeah, it's a lot to work on, and for that reason I would never do it. Goofy Roll says, does the tea ceremony change for each season? The things you serve changes, but not the ceremony itself, no. Hi, Sabrina. Wyatt Horn says, I use a coffee machine to get hot water for tea. Yeah, see, exactly. Yeah, that's what people do here in the United States, because we don't have kettles. Like, we don't generally need them. Skeptic says, I'm English, but I've never had a taste for tea. I do quite like a biscuit, though. Oh, yeah, the biscuits are really good. Keith says, how do you boil water if you don't have a jug / kettle? Well, easy. We put a pot on the stove, and we just boil water. But you also have to remember, what do we need water for? you know, like boiled water for. Like we only use boiled water, generally speaking, when we're cooking food. So, you know, and so for that purpose, you know, we boil it on the stove, you know, or depending on how small it is. Like if you're gonna make a small mug of tea, like if some people actually do drink like, you know, sweet tea or something. If you're gonna make a small jug of, like a small mug of tea, you just put that in the microwave and microwave it, and that's how you boil the water in the thing. So we never ever need kettles. And then, as who else said it? So I just read it. Wyatt says that he uses his coffee machine to boil water. And so yeah, it's like nobody here has a need for a kettle. Even this kettle, I don't use it for anything other than these tea times. I don't even use it for like tomorrow I'm going to have tea at 4 p.m., you know, and it's not going to be on live stream. I just do that every day. And when I do that, I just take a mug, fill it with water, microwave the mug, and it boils. So, you know, people here just don't need a kettle. I only got the kettle because I knew I was going to be doing this a lot, so. Skeptic says, what's your favorite type/brand of biscuit? I've only tried one brand, and it's McVitie's. And I always get the chocolate-covered ones. Well, to be honest, I have tried other brands. I've tried some Dutch brands, and those were really good. I looked them up, though. They're not cheap to buy, though. Why it says like pasta. Yeah, exactly. Stove on, you know, pot on the stove like pasta. Because, again, you know, not many people drink tea in the United States. You know, if they do, they buy it from somewhere, like a restaurant that probably brews a whole batch of it. So, really, people don't need to boil water for drinks here, really. So, the only time you boil water is when you're cooking food. So, Mirabelle says, sup Alex, what if Nazis torpedoed the SS United States, Queen Mary, and Olympic? That wouldn't be possible because, you know, if you're talking about the United States' era, there were no Nazis. You know, they were completely, you know, just destroyed during the World War II. So, but I mean, hypothetically speaking, see, I don't understand questions like that because, I mean, you might as well ask, like, what happens if you demolish a building? It collapses, it demolishes. So, you know, it's the same thing with, like, with ships. Like, what happens, you know, what if the Nazis torpedo United States, Queen Mary, and Olympic? Well, then they get torpedoed, and there's damage. Like, I don't know how to answer that. Nicolaus says, what's the current reopening date for our Queen? There is no current reopening date. They still have not announced it, as far as I'm aware, at least. I've been waiting for them to announce it because I will be in Southern California at the end of September. I was really hoping it would reopen October 1st. That's what they originally were telling us, that they were shooting for an October 1st reopening, but it was never official because they just didn't know if they could. All they're saying is just fall. That's all they're saying is just fall. Because they are running a little bit behind the schedule they were hoping to keep, if that makes any sense. So, but yeah. And a lot of people have asked, how come there's no Queen Mary updates? I have no updates to give you. There's just nothing. There's nothing. So, if there was information that I could share, I would have done it, you know. Tea time. Ow. Ow. Ha. Oh, that's really, really, really hot. Don't drop the lid. Okay. Let's see. SS Normandy says, it's so amazing how people can build ships as big as the Queen Mary. Oh, yeah. You know, some people, I've heard people tell me, like, oh, Queen Mary's not that big of a ship. And it's like, what? Like, you know, just because she's not tall and towering the way, like, a cruise ship is, doesn't mean she's a small ship. To this day, Queen Mary is the second largest ocean liner in existence. You know, the largest one being the Queen Mary 2, but the original Queen Mary is the second largest ocean liner in existence right now. And so that's what, like, really just astounds me, is when people are like, oh, well, she's not that big. I'm like, she's huge. Absolutely gargantuan. It's just that she doesn't beat modern, like, super cruise ships like the Oasis of the Seas or something. Olympic was torpedoed at some point, although the torpedo didn't actually detonate. Nate says, so did Queen Mary's Kitchen people make the sweets, like the cookies, from scratch, or did Cunard just buy them made from private companies? They made a lot of their own sweets. The only time I believe people actually ate like ordinary biscuits was like if they were having tea in their room, but even then they'd usually get a pastry. So, you know, a lot of the stuff was made by hand. In fact, I'd say most of the stuff, like 99% of the things they could serve you for tea, were made there on the ship. Because it was just easier that way, you know, instead of having to waste space by carrying extra, you know, product. You could just carry ingredients that could be used to make new products. So, Nicolaus says, speaking of the United States, what's the news? I don't follow the news on the United States. I mean, as far as I'm aware, it's, you know, it's in the same condition it's been the last 10 years. I don't think anything has been changing. Tyler says, Alex, there's a box-like structure in the bow of Queen Mary, right in front of the 3 forward boom cranes. Front of the 3 forward boom cranes. What is that, if that isn't a cargo hatch? There's a lot of boxes there. You'd have to be way more specific than that. I'll try to answer, but there's a lot of boxes on the bow of the ship. Oh boy. Ken has a joke. Says, hey Alex, here's a dumb joke. Why did the Mauretania go on a dating site? So it could find a relationship. Oh my gosh, that is so terrible. That joke is such a dad joke. Oh my gosh. A relationship. Let's see. Goofy Roll says, I've been on the Queen Mary many times. It is indeed huge. Yeah. Really big ship. Alright, I'm going to fix that squeaking in just a second, you guys, because it's driving me absolutely bonkers. Oh, jeez. I'm talking like a Brit now. I'm saying bonkers. You know, there must be something in this tea. I think it slowly turns you British the more you drink it. Soon I'll be saying cheers. Let's see. SS Normandy says, there's something about Queen Mary that is so beautiful, but I don't know. Oh, there is a lot that's beautiful about Queen Mary. And, you know, she looked really good when she was in her prime. I think a lot of people go on the ship today and they're like, oh, this isn't that pretty, you know. But it's because they're walking around a ship that's been heavily modified to be a hotel. And a lot of its original features have not been, you know, maintained since the last time it sailed. So some people see, like, paintings and stuff or images or parquet images. Or not parquet, but, what's the term for the wood images? I can't think of it. But, you know, they look at this stuff and it's all faded and it's in dire need of a professional cleaning and all that. Like, and so they assume that this is how the Queen Mary always looked. And it's like, no, she was this bright, beautiful ship, just gleaming and glistening, you know, all the surfaces. So, I'm good, Malibu Company. How about you? Bill says, I keep Alex should pre-warm his fingers as well as the teapot. Oh, yeah. Kevin says, is there anything original on Queen Mary from the 1930s? Oh, yeah, there's way more than I could tell you. There's so much. I mean, I would say, and I know a lot of people would disagree with me when I say this, but it's true. There's about 75 to 80% of the ship is still original. You know, it's just that there's so much new stuff and altered stuff that's been like weaved into the fabric of the originality of the ship that people look at it and they go, oh, that's not original. But when you look really carefully, like we have, you know, when me and Steve do our live streams of Lost and Abandoned Places, you can see how he and I kind of pick apart what's original and what's new. And there is so much of the ship that is still original. It's just that a lot of it is, you know, is covered up, or, you know, it's behind walls, or it's so dirty it needs to be cleaned, and that way you can see it the way it was. And so some people assume that like most of the paneling on the ship has been replaced. No, not at all. Most of the paneling on the ship is original. It's just that it doesn't look the same as it did in the photos from the 1930s because the varnish has faded and it's made it cloudy and it's hard to see the wood grain. But it's still original, you know. So most of the ship is still original. It's just that it's just been heavily altered, modified, or not maintained. But it's all still there. And that's something I've been trying to show on my channel because so many people just don't think it is. They don't think it's original. It really, really, really is. Tyler says, okay, it's near the back of the bow or forecastle deck, and it looks like a cargo hatch, but it's very small, and I don't think the hooks on the boom cranes go that far. Yeah, I know what you're talking about now. It's not a cargo hatch, but it's a hatch that leads down into the A-deck forward gear room. So the gear room has like the electric winches and not winches, what do you call them? I'm trying to use real terminology. Not the winches. It's capstan machinery. So the capstan machinery is all down there on the A-deck level below. And so that hatch opens up into it. So that way if they need to remove large pieces in order to replace them, they can. So that's what that's for. And then there's a hatch even further forward of that, closer to the tip of the bow. And that hatch is goes down through all the forward cargo holds. And it was for raising and lowering small amounts of something. I'm not really sure what. That's something I need to learn more about. John says, hi Alex, really enjoyed your 3 British Pathé newsreels yesterday. Young people don't know that we once heard about news events via weekly newsreels and magazines. Yeah, there will be more of those posted. I only posted the 3 yesterday because, well, if you keep uploading and keep uploading and keep uploading, people get tired and they don't want to watch a single one of them. So so I will be occasionally, you'll see a newsreel uploaded in 4K, because since I have that new software that can upgrade the images to 4K quality, I'm going to be using that a lot, so that way my videos look a lot better. So yeah, you'll see more of those newsreels. I've already converted, like I've only posted 3, but I've converted 6. So I still have 3 more that, you know, and every day as I work on new videos, more old images and newsreels will be upscaled. I don't want to say restored because that's not really the right word, but upscaled, yeah. Nicolaus says, can't find any photos of Texas escorting Queen Mary due to fears of KGS, Tirpitz, Scharnhorst, and, oh, I can't even pronounce that last one. Texas did so with other big ships. I don't believe Texas escorted Queen Mary, but I mean, it's possible. It was a long war. Goofy Rolls says, when they paint Queen Mary, do they correctly strip it down to the bare metal, or do they do it cheap by just painting over the paint? They paint over the paint, but now, hear me out. On a house, you wouldn't want to, like, do that, right? Like, if you're going to repaint a house and there might be several layers of paint, you know, you would strip down the paint. Or, like, if you had a painted statue, some statues are painted, you would strip it down and that kind of thing. Like, I'm trying to think of other things that would be stripped down, but normally you would strip down that stuff. But on a ship, it's actually better to not do that when you can. And the reason why is because the extra layers of paint build up and they protect the metal underneath. And so actually on a ship, generally speaking, the more layers of paint you have, the better. But that being said, Queen Mary is rather old, and some of her layers of paint are an inch thick. So, you know, well, maybe like a half inch. Yeah, a half inch is more realistic. Half inch thick, but so in some cases, it actually would be necessary to strip down certain areas of the ship, because then those large chips come off and in huge chunks. But you know, if an area is only like a fraction of an inch thick in, you know, with the paint layers, then it's not a problem to just paint over it and paint over it. Because generally speaking, on a ship, the more layers of paint, the more protection there is. So, alright. Ken says, definitely share a lot of your opinions on SS Normandy, but I have to say, it had the best sounding whistle compared to recordings of other classic liner whistles. Yeah, you know what? Even I have to admit that. It's true. Normandy's whistles did sound better. Even better than Queen Mary's. Yeah. I hate to admit it, but it's true. Eternal Travel says, I made it this time. I sadly missed the last tea time live stream. Hold on, you guys. I'm going to oil this thing up because it's like ridiculous. Alright, so for this job, I have a special, here we go. I just want to get this over with so I can get back to the live stream, and I'll try to answer your questions as I go. White Star Line says, will Blue Star Line even make Titanic 2? No, they canceled that last year. But, I mean, you know, he's been saying he's going to make Titanic 2 since I was a child, and I'm, you know, 30 now. It was never going to happen. It just isn't a good idea. It's not a good idea because that's not what a modern audience wants. Yeah, there's a small niche of the public that would appreciate that kind of thing, but that niche wouldn't even be able to afford it. So this thing, it's like a syringe. So the squeaking is coming from the trailing wheels, which are electrically conductive, and they just, it's ridiculous. The axles, where they meet the where the wheel meets the axle, it gets just like really squeaky. That's it. That's as simple as it is. You know, and now you'll see it won't squeak, but, you know. Okay. Oh, jeez, of course. What is going on? Great. Now the car doesn't want to couple to the engine. All right. So the squeak is fixed for the next 24 hours. I don't get it, you know? It doesn't say on here, like, oh, temporary, you know, product, you know, dries out or something. It doesn't say anything like that. It just... I don't get it. And I don't want to have to do this every single time, you know, that I need to run that engine. Because then I have to put the whole thing away. I don't want the lid leaking this stuff everywhere. Doc says, oh, it's hard to see. I have a silly question. Were there bathtubs, like fancy claw-footed tubs, on the Queen Mary or other liners? Could you take a soak or showers only? A bubble bath enthusiast. There were regular bathtubs, but not claw-footed tubs. Claw-footed tubs are quite dated by the 1930s. But they did have tubs. And most of the first class rooms had their own bathtubs, so it wasn't just showers. And then if your stateroom didn't come with a bathroom of its own, then you would have to share with other passengers of your class, and they also provided bathroom, well, not bathroom, but yeah, I guess it would be a bathroom since they have baths in there. Bathroom facilities. And so you would just tell the steward, like, oh, I'd like to reserve one of the bathrooms and take a bath. And they'd say, okay, and then they reserve you the room. They would draw your bath, provide you with, you know, soaps and other things. And then, yeah, you had the bathroom for half an hour, 45 minutes maybe. I don't think it was a full hour. Might have been, but I'm taking my best guess here, and I don't think it was a full hour. So, yeah, that's how they did it. Oh, it's so quiet. I was like, did it stop moving? See, it'll run fine. And then tomorrow, if I want to run it, it'll be squeaking again. Alright, let's see. Someone is saying there's bots here, but I don't see any bots. There aren't any bots in my chat, and the reason why is because you have to have been a subscriber for 20 minutes before you can leave a chat comment. So that's how I get away from the bots, because the bots don't subscribe. They only comment. Tyler says, also, why is Queen Mary's whistles, why were they 55 hertz if all other liners are 75 hertz? Not all liners back then were 75 hertz. The 75 hertz rule came just after Queen Mary's creation. I want to say by the 1950s. Oh, that's good. I want to say by the 1950s, 75 hertz was a thing. But the reason why Queen Mary's was so low was because while she was being made, it was traditional. I don't know if it was law, but it was traditional that the larger the liner, the deeper the voice of the liner. So, Normandy, Queen Mary were so huge, they had to have the deepest voices. And so it made it so if you were in a fog and you heard that deep voice, you knew it was a large liner and not some small ship. But today it doesn't work that way. Today the whistles on a ship are used more as just a warning device. And really, if you wanted to see what size the ship was that was coming at you, you would use, they have like GPS and stuff like that, and you can identify it, and so you don't really need the whistles anymore to tell you how big the liner is. So yeah. But back then there were a lot of ships that had really deep voices, just like Queen Mary. There's probably some that were deeper. She didn't have the deepest voice, I don't think. Okay. I have to scroll back up because I'm... Queen Mary does have nice light fixtures. I like the light fixtures on Queen Mary. Some of them I don't like the original light fixtures that were in the corridors, the first class corridors. It wasn't even a light fixture. It was just an incandescent tube, and it was just like exposed for everybody to see. So it was just like weird. Wasn't pretty. Nicolaus, thank you again. Says, do you suppose there were any Nazi and Mussolini spies roving the decks of the two queens and Normandy in the years before the war? Yes, actually, I heard stories of Cunard having to be extra careful because they believed that there were spies on board on occasion. But generally speaking, their fear was mostly around the times when they were transporting important government officials or even military officials. That's when you would most likely expect a spy to be on board. And so they were really extra cautious for that. I'm sure there was a spy on board, but I don't know if we'll ever know for sure. Sabrina says, how was Tillamook, Alex? Tillamook was really cool. We first, before we even went to Tillamook, we went to Cannon Beach, which is just beautiful. I've seen it in movies and stuff, but never in real life. And it was beautiful. That famous rock on the beach, it was bigger than I thought it was. I thought, oh, that rock's probably like 3-4 stories high. No, it's like the size of a high-rise building. It's huge. It was just, and it like dominated the skyline of the beach. It was crazy. And then we went to Tillamook afterwards. The factory was really neat. It was a really short self-guided tour. It wasn't even really a tour. It was a hallway up above the main floor. And you walk down the hallway, and it's a wide hallway, really wide, like, 20 feet wide, But you could look down and see all the different stations of where they make the cheese and, how they package it and stuff. They didn't have any cheese in production at that time, so we didn't get to see anything. But it was really neat to be there. And then they had a gift shop where they sold all of their dairy products, as well as some like takeaway products. I got I got a funny one. So I wanted to get a souvenir. I was thinking about a coffee mug, but I thought, I just have so many coffee mugs, I don't need another one. So it turned out the only other souvenir I really wanted from there was a refrigerator magnet, and it's a cheese grater. It's a miniature cheese grater. I thought it was so hilarious. So, yeah, that was fun. Brian says, is there a reason you're having trouble seeing the chat? Is it small to read, or is your eyesight going? You need glasses to read. So I have scarring in the nerve behind my left eye, and it left my left eye dim. So it's I can still see through my left eye, but it's significantly dimmer when I look through it. In fact, I can look up at the sun and it doesn't sting my eye. Like, how, like, if you look up at the sun, you're like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna be blinded. It hurts almost. Well, I can look up at the sun with my left eye and that won't happen. Yeah, it's really weird. I don't do that very often because I know I can still go blind by doing that. But yeah, it's so it makes it difficult to read things, and glasses don't help because it's not an issue of focusing, it's an issue of just being able to get enough light in my eye to see. So yeah, that's why. And so there are certain days where it affects me more than other days. And so today is one of those days where I'm just having trouble seeing it. But also it's because the text is so small on my phone that I'm like trying to like get real close to see. Keith says the joys of model railroading. Oh yeah, I love model railroading, and I've been saving up some materials so I can do another major work on the thing. I'm getting covered in chocolate. Hello, Mike. White Starline says, if I was rich, I would build another Titanic because Titanic is erased from history. It will soon be forgotten. See, why does it have to be Titanic? Why don't you build an Olympic? I've always had a problem with them building Titanic. I feel it's disrespectful. Like, here's the funny thing. I don't have a problem with them going down to the wreck and pulling things back up. I think getting those things and putting them in proper museums is a great way to teach people about the reality of what happened. Because as I always say, people learn better when they see physical artifacts of what happened. Because you can see that stuff on a screen all you want, but you don't feel like, you feel disconnected from it. You feel like, oh, that happened somewhere else. But if you get to walk up and actually come face to face with an artifact of the wreckage, you know, you start to feel connected to it. You start to feel like, oh my gosh, this was a real thing. You know, it really digs deep into your psyche. So I don't mind them going down to the wreck and pulling things back up, but I do mind them building a new Titanic that will sail. I find that extremely disrespectful, because of the fact that people died on that. Like, it's not, you know, it's not a fun thing. It's not meant for fun. It's not meant for, you know, for entertainment in a certain way. You know, people died on it, and yeah. But, you know, there's a lot of people who are rooting for there to be another Titanic. So what I'm saying is, why not Olympic? You know, Olympic looked very similar to Titanic in almost every way. And it was a ship that did not sink. It was a ship that, many good things happened. And so I feel like that could be used as a real sailing ship that looks a lot like Titanic, but can also operate as kind of like a museum for Titanic. But it would be Olympic, you know, like I wouldn't mind that, but yeah. Historic Travel says, Alex, have you ever been on an ocean liner? Sorry, I'm just going back because I did skip a few, and I wanted to make sure I didn't skip anything important. Have I ever been on an ocean liner? Aside from the original Queen Mary in Long Beach, no. I've never been on another ocean liner, especially not one that's sailed. I would like to. I'd like to take a trip aboard the Queen Mary 2, but that will have to wait till I have a lot of money saved up. But yeah, I've been on the Queen Mary, the original, and she's technically still an ocean liner. SS Normandy says, was the Queen Mary originally going to have a clipper stern? It depends on what you mean originally. They did design her with the idea in mind that they would install a clipper stern, but they realized that a cruiser stern was actually better for her needs, so they changed the stern design to a cruiser stern. And in fact, I actually made a Facebook post about that. So, yeah. And actually, I have a video coming out that will feature the information about Queen Mary's cruiser stern and why they chose to go with a cruiser stern as opposed to a clipper stern. I think it'll be really interesting. I think you guys will like that one. Doc says, Alex, being a new subscriber, this may be redundant, but do you have a job working with ships outside YouTube? How did you get into ocean liners and video editing? Those are very separate questions, but I started off doing YouTube in 2016 is when I started the channel. And back then, my channel was only about the history of Disneyland, because that was something I'm well versed in. Like, as you might have seen from this live stream so far, I don't know a lot about ocean liners. I mean, I know a lot about ocean liners, but there are many people who are in this chat that know way more about ocean liners than I do. And so, I got doing YouTube. Sorry, I'm trying to think of what I'm trying to say. I got into YouTube doing Disneyland history, and I did that for a solid 4 years. But once 2020 hit, my views took a dive, and people were just watching my content less and less and less and less, to the point where I would put out a video and then nobody would watch it. And so I realized, I'm like, I still like doing YouTube, But I feel like if I want the channel to succeed, if I want more people to watch, if I want, you know, all this hard work that I put into the channel to be worth it, I've got to branch out to my other interests. And in January of 2020, see, I wasn't always an ocean liner enthusiast. I did like the Titanic. I was in a Titanic bubble, as I call it, and I have a video about the Titanic bubble and what it means for people. But I did like the Titanic. I wasn't a major fan of it. I still don't know a ton of stuff about it. But in 2020, my friends were like, hey, let's go hang out on the Queen Mary. And I was like, oh, I'm not really interested. And they're like, come on, it'll be fun. I'm like, all right, we'll go. You know, I thought I'll film a vlog or something and put it on my channel, because my channel is all about Disneyland. So I filmed a vlog, and when I was on the Queen Mary, something just clicked. I was walking around the ship, and it felt almost like the ship was saying, help me. And I know that sounds funny, but really, I felt like the Queen Mary was like, you know, it needed attention drawn to it. Because at the time, it was in this limbo. You know, the company that was operating it was going bankrupt. You know, there was this uncertainty of what was going to happen to the ship. And as I was on the ship, it seemed like the ship was just calling out to me, like, help me. And I thought, well, what are my skills? What is the way I can help this ship? And I thought, I have a YouTube channel. I tell people about history. You know, and I thought, why don't I just make some videos about the Queen Mary and try to bring attention to the ship with whatever viewership I have, and try to find ways of getting that support for the Queen Mary. So I started making videos, and well, I didn't just start. It wasn't immediate. It took a whole year, because I was doing research on the Queen Mary. And when I do research, I do research. I do not just like Google something. Like, I will spend a long time. So for a full 12 months after that visit in January of 2020, I was doing research on the Queen Mary until I finally felt in 2021 that I was ready to make my first videos. And so I started doing that. I started making my first videos. By the way, the first person who taught me about the Queen Mary was my friend Shiloh. So Shiloh often watches my YouTube channel, so thank you, Shiloh. You can all thank Shiloh for being my introduction into the Queen Mary and my introduction into ocean liners in general. So I started making Queen Mary videos, and as I was making Queen Mary videos, I would occasionally stumble upon information about other ocean liners, and that kind of got me interested in certain other ships. And so yeah, my fascination with ocean liners kind of grew from there. But yeah, I do not have a job working with ships. And that actually brings me to another important point I should probably tell everybody. So in June of this year, I made an announcement on my channel. And the announcement was that I had become the public relations director of QMI Restore the Queen. And that meant that, you know, my job was to help establish and maintain relationships with this nonprofit and with the public. And the nonprofit QMI Restore the Queen, you know, is the only 501c3 nonprofit that is dedicated to the Queen Mary. So in June 1st of this year, I had announced that. But what I didn't tell everybody was that August 1st of this year, so earlier this month, I had forfeited all responsibilities to that job. You know, I was overly stressed. I was unhappy. I did not like what I was doing. And, you know, I needed to get away from it for my own mental health and for, you know, for my own happiness. So, yeah, I am no longer a public relations director for QMI Restore the Queen. And so, yeah, you know, I'm still friends with the executive director, which is, you know, Stephen Oblonsky, and Stephen is still on my channel, and this Saturday he's going to be on a live stream with me. We're going to talk about Queen Mary's boilers and stuff like that. So that's also, but the reason why, you know, why I haven't put out many update videos about the Queen Mary's construction has to do with the fact that I left QMI. Because prior to that, a lot of my information about the Queen Mary's restoration work used to be fed to me through QMI. And, you know, QMI, they are the nonprofit for the Queen Mary. So they would be able to tell me the latest news and updates and things like that, and then with their permission I was able to post that to my channel. But since the start of August, I haven't been with them, so I do not have access to that information. And yeah, and you know, and then of course my endorsement of the organization no longer exists. So, you know, that kind of symbiotic relationship is not there anymore. So that's part of the reason why I don't have any updates for you guys, because the only way I can get the updates is through the way I used to do it in the early days, which was when public information was shared by the city or by the hotel. You know, they would make posts and things like that, and what I would do is I would gather all those posts into one thing. I would cross-reference all the information myself to make sure that it wasn't just, you know, like a newspaper was telling a lie that was being spread around. I would like cross-reference things to make sure that it was as accurate as possible. So I will have to do that from now on, which is fine because I do that anyway, I think. But yeah, so that is, yeah, that is what's going on, and that was something. The reason why I haven't mentioned it up until now is because for the first 2 weeks of the month, I just was not in the right place. You guys might have noticed that the first 2 weeks of this month, there was virtually no videos. In fact, there was a whole month between the end of July and, you know, and then mid-August where I didn't post any history videos. It was just live streams, and even then I didn't do the live streams very often. Part of it was that there was a really bad heat wave and I didn't have air conditioning at that time, so doing live streams was just not comfortable. But a lot of it had to do with the fact that I was just not in a good place. I needed time off. I needed to think. So so I had took a break, like a month-long break from my channel, to kind of recenter myself and get back on track. And now I'm back on track. So, you know, I'm producing history videos again and stuff like that, just like I used to. So, yeah. So that is why there's been no updates. That's, you know, stuff like that. And the reason why I haven't mentioned anything until today is because I was waiting for the right time and place to tell everybody. I still need to make a post of some kind that explains this. But I'm waiting until there is news about the Queen Mary so I can make that announcement, because it wouldn't make sense for me to just make a random video on my channel that says, by the way, I am no longer working with QMI Restore the Queen. That would be a weird video to make. So I need news and information to present to the public where I can make that announcement. But this is the first time I've actually told my viewers that I'm no longer with the organization. So yeah. But I will still be promoting the Queen Mary on my channel, trying to educate people about the ship, trying to bring awareness to what the ship needs. So, because I still love the Queen Mary. Nicolaus, thank you again. Battleship Oregon from the Spanish-American War sat in Crescent City until they cut her up for scrap in World War II. Not sure if it helped the war effort much. Oh, wow. I didn't know that. Crescent City. Is that Crescent City, California? Pookie Smoochie says, what kind of stern does Queen Mary 2 have? It's really interesting. She's technically got a cruiser stern, but it's not even, because it's like a hybrid. It's like a hybrid between like a squared off stern and then a cruiser stern. It's really weird. Tomcat says, in Southampton I heard both whistles of Queen Mary 2 and RMS Sylvania steam whistles of Albatross was incredibly nerve-shattering louder than Queen Mary 2, which shocked me first time. Historic Travels says, well, I have my own different design of the Olympic, and only 30 people died on the Britannic. Where... Historic Travel says, also, Alex, why don't you work for Cunard? There's not really anything I could provide them. There's nothing I could give them that I have as an expertise. So, you know, yeah. It's just a matter of like what do I have to offer versus what do they want. I have nothing that they want, and they don't have anything that I want. So that's why I don't work for Cunard. Tyler says, thank you, Tyler, for the donation. I was told that if I had a lot of money left over, I was going to send another 20 for you to go to Queen Mary 2. Well, here you go. Oh, thank you so much. You didn't have to do that. But I'll put that in the, what do you call it? The fundraiser campaign. Yeah, folks, if you want to help me achieve my goal of taking a transatlantic crossing aboard the Queen Mary 2, there's some links in the description below on how you can see the fundraiser and the video I created for what I want to do and how I want to do it. It's going to be a trip to the UK and to France to film a lot of history videos of locations in the UK and France to make more videos for you guys. You know, I estimate that at least 100 to 200 videos could be made off that trip alone. So it would be a huge bonus to the channel. I mean, you've seen my videos about New Orleans and stuff. I was able to do that New Orleans video without actually visiting New Orleans, yet I still plan to visit New Orleans to film more. So, yeah, all that's in the description below. Doc says, I adore Disneyland videos. I adore the Disneyland videos you did. Thank you for answering both my questions so thoughtfully this evening. Much appreciated. Love learning more about you. Oh, thank you so much. Has anyone seen Ghosts on the Queen Mary? Some people have. Historic Travels says, what happens to White Star Line? Wait, what happens to... am I having difficulty reading this? What happens to White Star Line? I have been doing so much researching about the company, I have not slept for 3 days. You're not Sam from Historic Travels, are you? Because that's not his icon. But what happens to White Star Line? I've been doing so much researching. So White Star Line was merged with Cunard. Cunard was the majority. I forget the terminology. I'm really sleepy, so forgive me if I'm not speaking correctly. But so Cunard was the majority company of the two. So in the merger, Cunard remained Cunard, and they were Cunard White Star Line for a short while until 1950, I believe it was. And then after 1950, they had changed their name back to Cunard, but they still own White Star Line. So White Star Line is still, the company still exists. It's just been merged so deeply with Cunard that it doesn't really show up much. And yeah, so they still own the logos and everything for White Star Line and stuff like that. You're welcome, Shiloh. Bowers of Wolf Lord says, lately I've been fascinated with ocean liners and I don't know why. No, you know, it's kind of like a little bug that gets you, you know. Tomcat says, Alex, you may have worked on the Queen Mary in a previous life, hence the feeling you got from her on the first visit, maybe. Maybe. You know, honestly, I felt some deep connection with the ship. You know, I've been on the ship a few times in my life, visiting it, but I just felt really deeply connected to it last time I was on it. It was just really weird. I just felt like I had to do something. Dangerous Brian. Well, I was there for 2 months. But yeah, I did give it my best shot. Tyler says, that's another question. Is Queen Mary Tech a new Queen Mary series? Kinda. It's the same idea as Queen Mary's Lost Places. And there's still a few more Queen Mary's Lost Places that we have to do. But Queen Mary Tech is going to be about the technology of the ship and how it worked. And so the first episode we're going to do of that is about the boilers. Originally I had planned for us to do one episode about the propulsion of the Queen Mary. But as we talked about it, we realized that there was so much information, it couldn't be done in one episode. So yeah, Queen Mary Tech 101 will be a little offshoot about the technology of the Queen Mary. And yeah, first episode is boilers. Second episode will probably be the engines. We'll see how it kind of all fits together. And I'm also still working on the video, the Queen Mary story, about the Yarrow project, and that's voiced by Ernest Borgnine. So I still am working on that. It's just taking a long time because, you know, I'm working on other projects while I do that. So, but the Ernest Borgnine video, I'm so excited to try that, you guys. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I have a trailer for it, on a teaser trailer for it on my channel. If you go to the playlist, the Queen Mary series, it's the first video on the playlist. It's the trailer for the Queen Mary story, and it's about the Yarrow project. But yeah, I would watch that trailer. It's really cool. And the whole thing will be in 4K, 60 frames per second, so... Planet Mirror says, hi Alex, new subscriber here. I've been loving your Disney content. Do you plan on more Disney history moving forward? Yes. So, but not at a frequent pace, if you know what I mean. Like, the first 4 years of my channel's existence was 100% dedicated to Disney content. But that viewership dropped off. The channel almost died because of it. You know, there's an oversaturation of Disney content on YouTube. So less and less people care about clicking on my videos. Now, there was an interesting fluke with the latest video about the history of Disneyland. You know, it's my video called Walt's Impossible Dream. And that was a weird fluke. You know, I posted it on Disneyland's anniversary. I posted it at a time when people really wanted to see an anniversary video because no one was doing one. So that just got a huge viewership, but that was a fluke. I don't expect that to happen with other Disney videos because I've been doing this for years and the Disney videos usually just don't get that many views. So I'm not a person who's a stickler for views, but I put weeks and weeks worth of work into each one of those videos. So when it doesn't get seen very much, it almost feels like it was a waste of time. So I do plan on making more Disney history videos. The next one is likely going to be about Pirates of the Caribbean. But it's not going to happen at a frequent pace. It's not like it's going to be, you know, every week. Not even every 2 weeks, not even every month. It's going to be every couple of months. So it'll be a very slow pace. But yeah, there will still be Disney content, though. Tyler says, Alex, I know you don't watch a lot of movies, but I have to say, actor Jim Carrey has a lot of one-liners. He does. In a deleted scene of Sonic 2... Oh, I can't say that. That's pretty funny, though. Nicolaus, thank you again. Yes, Crescent City, California, pre-1964 tsunami, of course. Wow. Yeah, that's actually pretty cool. I didn't know there was even a... I didn't even know there was, like, a port large enough in Crescent City for that. Doc says, it's been so cool to learn more about you. Thanks for sharing. No problem. I'm an open book, basically. I answer almost any question. Fallon Wills says, Alex, why did they take out the 3 classrooms on Queen Mary? Oh, third class. I was like, classrooms? No, third classrooms on Queen Mary. Well, there are various reasons. It's not just one reason. The main reason is that they needed that space for other things. So in some areas, they took out third class to make more room for, you know, museum space and things like that. In other cases, they needed storage, so they took out third class rooms for that reason. Just various things, you know, and there was nothing stopping them because back then they figured, you know, we can't rent these rooms out. No one's going to want to stay in a third class room, which is true even to this day. Some people might be like, no, I would stay in a third class room. No, you wouldn't want to do that. They're cool to look at when you walk by them, but that's about it. Now, where they made the mistake was that they didn't even preserve any of them at all. That's the mistake. Now, I have no problem that they removed most of them. That's not a problem because, again, there's no use for them other than as an exhibit. But you wouldn't want to keep decks and decks and decks full of third-class rooms as exhibits. That gets old fast. Like, what are you going to do? You're going to make people walk 1,000 feet one way and 1,000 feet the other way on multiple levels just to see the same rooms? No. So I don't mind that they took them out, but one thing I do mind is that they didn't preserve even one. I think what they should have done, because on like D deck, for instance, there was an area where there was a group of third-class rooms separated by watertight bulkheads. And they should have kept that group of third-class staterooms there. So that way people could walk around that little area and see what the rooms looked like. Because they were of varying shapes and layouts. But they were essentially the same room. They should have kept it. They should have kept at least one third-class room. But they did not keep a single one. That is truly disappointing. So, you know, but that's why... Bowers the Wolf says, submarine by Queen Mary is apparently infested with raccoons. Oh, yeah. It's infested with raccoons, rats, birds. Possums. Yeah, possums. Yeah. Fallon says, Alex, is the Queen Mary ghost stories BS? Not 100%. I feel it's more like 98%. I know we get in this conversation every single live stream. But to make long story short, the major stories that are told are farce. You know, they're the major stories that are told, the ones that are almost theatrical in the way the story is laid out, those are fake. But when people say that they felt taps on their shoulders, or someone speaking into their ear, or maybe they saw someone off the corner of their eye, those are the real stories. Those are the real stories. But the ones were like, oh, this man and woman got attacked in their bed 3 times in the night by the same ghost, and they fought him off by shattering a standing lamp over his head. Like, that's completely fake. Just completely fake. So, yeah. Emperor Hirohito, no, I don't know about the Literature Club. Historic Travel says, do you have a Discord server? I do, but it is only for paying channel members and Patreon members. Because obviously in my Discord server you have direct access to talk to me, and I am a busy person, so I can't talk to everybody all the time, but it is there. So if you want to be a channel member or you want to be a Patreon member, you have access to the Discord server. You have to pay for the archivist tier of those 2 memberships, either of those 2 memberships, I should say. But it comes with other things too. Like, I would highly suggest people, like, if you want to be a member of some kind, be a YouTube member. You get more perks. The Patreon membership, I can't offer as many perks to people because Patreon is so easy to it's really easy for people to fake being a member on Patreon and get the perks. So on a YouTube channel, if you become a member of the YouTube channel, I can actually keep that specifically for people who pay. So Emperor Hirohito says, I know a food you could bring on tea times, and what would that be? Fallon says, Alex, what year do you think Queen Mary 2 will retire? Well, they usually retire around at or below 40 years of service. You know, she went in service 2004, so I imagine around 2044 or slightly sooner. I'm gonna have more tea. Oh. Cars asks, what is your favorite ship in the Cunard line? Oh, not in the Cunard line. Not in the Cunard line? It's either SS France 1910 or 1912, I forget which one. Or it would be Oceanic 1899. Fallon says, Alex, this channel is my #1 favorite ocean liner channel next to Historic Travels. Oh, thank you. Fallon says, Alex, the Queen Mary submarine is like a zoo. Yeah, it is. Planet Mirror says, I'll be watching it all. Thank you for your effort and research. Your channel is wonderful. Oh, thank you so much. Pfeiffer says, and the hydrodynamic dynamic and therefore fuel-saving benefits of the transom stern, as the transom stern maximizes the waterline length of a ship. Fallon Will says, Alex, would you go on SS Rex if you could? I mean, if I knew it wasn't going to be bombed while I was on it, then yeah, I would. But it did get bombed. I think SS Rex was a beautiful ship. Okay. I'm going to preheat this a little bit. Because it's... Ooh, that's hot. Okay. Wolf Lord says, I barely see anyone talking about Andrea Doria. I feel like everybody talks about Andrea Doria. I think the reason why we don't talk about it here is because it's talked about so much on other channels. I just don't want to talk about it. I want to talk about ships that most people don't talk about, you know. Gregory says, sorry to hear about the rough water on your voyage. Always know I am for your ultimate success. Wish I could donate at the current time. Oh, thank you so much. That's nice of you to say. Emperor Hirohito said, if Aquitania was never scrapped, it would have been harder to preserve the Queen Mary. I don't think so, because it wasn't that they saved Queen Mary because they couldn't save the other ships. That's not why they saved Queen Mary. They saved Queen Mary because she earned it. You know, Aquitania earned being saved. It's just that the public just didn't care, ultimately, you know. But the Queen Mary earned such a reputation. Everybody cared about her, and that's why she was saved. People often forget that when Queen Mary retired in 1967, she was the world's most famous ocean liner. Even more famous than Titanic. Because at the time, Titanic wasn't as romanticized as it is today. You know, you have to remember that the James Cameron movie wasn't out then. So there were a few other movies, yes, but they weren't like amazing, huge successes the way Titanic 1997 was. So Queen Mary was the most famous ocean liner when she retired. And 2 years later, she was overshadowed by QE2, which became the most famous until she retired. So, yeah. So Queen Mary did earn that place. Fallon Will says, Alex, what ship still holds the blue ribbon? Technically, it would be the United States. Still holds the blue ribbon. There was a less well-known competition where the Hales Trophy, which is not the same as the blue ribbon. Some people think it is. I think the Hales Trophy and the blue ribbon are the same thing, but they're not. The Hales Trophy was different. There was another ship. It was like a yacht, really, like a really large yacht. And it was faster than SS United States, and it won the Hales Trophy. So that Italian yacht still has the Hales Trophy title. But yeah, the blue ribbon is still held title-wise by the SS United States. Hey Derpy, how's it going? Wolf Lord says, what is the biggest ocean liner? The biggest ocean liner to ever exist is Cunard's Queen Mary 2. you know. I don't know metric measurements. I don't remember. But in feet, Queen Mary 2 is 1,300 some odd feet long. I think like 1,380 feet long. No. It's 1,100. No, I forget. Never mind. I forget. But yeah, it is. Queen Mary 2 is the largest ocean liner to have ever been built. That I know for a fact. And we maybe never get a larger ocean liner. There's really no reason to. But who knows, you know? Maybe we'll be lucky and the next ocean liner to replace it is larger. We'll see. Rytupiep says, would a Queen Mary 2 replacement still be a diesel electric, or would it have greener propulsion? It would probably have some kind of greener propulsion. It would still be a fuel to electric turbo generation, but the fuel is what would change. It would depend if they decide to use diesel or something else. But yeah. You guys, I don't know if that Historic Travels is the same Sam from Historic Travels, because that's not his profile picture. His profile picture is of the Titanic at night. So I think this Historic Travels is another viewer who changed their name. Fallon Will says, Alex, what ship would you go on of 3 Oceanic 1809 or Queen Mary or Olympic 1936? I think you meant 1899. What ship would I go on? Well, Queen Mary, of course. Queen Mary's my favorite ship of all time. So it's gonna be Queen Mary. Christian says, have you heard of the SS Sultana? No, I haven't. Kevin says Queen Mary 2 is 1,131 feet long. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Fallon Will says, have you heard of the Titanic conspiracy theory? Or, no, it's a different conspiracy. Where Titanic split when it hit the bottom. Yeah, I've heard that one. I don't think it's true. Many people saw it split above the water. Like, many people saw it split above the water. You know, it's one thing for the people who saw it go down whole. Like, that's one thing, because you can understand how they saw that happen, right? You can understand that maybe they turned around after it split and they saw the stern going down and assumed it was whole. And again, it was really dark outside. So they could only see the ship because it made an absence of starlight on the horizon. So there was no moon out that night. So that's how they could see the ship, but people said they saw it split. So that your mind doesn't just make up. You don't suddenly see a ship splitting with explosions, and then the water around it going like that. Like, that's not something your brain can just make up. So that's why I totally believe the ship split apart above the surface of the water. And it makes a lot of sense, because ships that large are not designed to be half out of water and half in water and stay intact. Not when they're that size. When the Queen Mary was being launched from her slipway, did you know that they didn't yet fully cut out all the portholes and hatches when they did that? And that was because they knew the ship was so heavy that as it was going down the slipway, it would reach a point where half of the ship was floating in water and the other half was still on the slipway on land. And they knew that the forces would make the ship want to bend and fold. So they were so afraid of it breaking in half, the Queen Mary, that they didn't fully cut out all the portholes and hatches until after she was fully in the water. So that goes to tell you that it very much was a well-known fact that ships of that size, the hugeness of them, the weight alone of them being only half in water could cause them to fold or split in half. So, because people think of ships, they think of them as solid objects, you know, they think like, oh, they think like, if Godzilla came up and lifted Titanic from the center, the Titanic would just stay in one piece and he could lift it up with one hand. In real life, if Godzilla came and did that, that couldn't happen. The ship would have broken half because of the sheer weight of it. It's not designed to be, ships are not designed to be supported by a fulcrum. They're designed to be supported all the way down the length of the ship. Doc says, okay, you said you're an open book. Don't forget, I'm a psychologist. Can you tell us another interesting thing about yourself? I don't really know what's interesting. I don't know. I mean, I would need, like, a specific question. I'm not really sure, like, what else stands out to me as, like, something that would be interesting to tell you guys about me. I've done many interesting things in my life, but I don't know. Derpy Possum says Luke Towan has the best place to go for doing scenery. Interesting. I'll have to check it out. Christian. Oh, okay. That's what the SS Sultana was. Okay. Fallon says, Alex, have you heard of the ship Poseidon? Of course I've heard of the ship Poseidon. That's the Queen Mary. Fallon Wells says, Alex, who owns White Starline? Cunard owns White Starline. SS Normandy says, Queen Mary has a really nice superstructure. I think so too. Not a lot of people think that, but I do. I think Queen Mary is a really nice superstructure. Empire of Waterloo says, hi Alex, your Tillamook livestream was fun. Oh, thank you. I thought being there was really fun. Historic Travel says, how long would it take to become a ship designer? Like, mail. I don't know who that is, but I don't know how long it would take to become a ship designer. That sounds like it would take forever. Might as well ask me, how long does it take for a person to become a marine engineer? Like, I couldn't tell you. 6 years of college? I'm not really sure. Fallon Wills says, I thought Poseidon sank. Poseidon is a fictional ship, but it was based on the Queen Mary. So it was a fictional story that was entirely inspired by the Queen Mary. The Poseidon, even in the 1972 film, was designed to look like the Queen Mary. Dad, I know you're watching the live stream, and I can't answer you while I'm live streaming to my audience. Dads. They are, McVitie's, I'm answering my father. They are McVitie's, chocolate-covered tea biscuits. Yeah. Although they were like, so they're covered in chocolate. I ordered them. They arrived. They were completely melted together. So before the live stream, I took like a knife and I was like chipping away at it like a block of ice, just like chipping away at it, and so it was just in this huge clumpy mess on here. Fallon Wells says, what happened to Costa Concordia? It was broken apart for scrap. SS Princess Louise, she's still sitting at the bottom of the coast of California with no way to access her. Historic Travel says, me also, I made my own design of the Olympic. Pretty neat. Did anybody notice my blue light in the background? I think it's pretty cool. I got some new light fixtures that I could kind of make the background look more interesting as opposed to just being a white background. Thanks for ASMR. I heard you chewing. Well, it's not going to be a regular thing. Derpy says, best room aboard Lusitania in your opinion? I don't know about the private staterooms, because I've never seen any, but on Lusitania, I do really like the veranda. I thought that was a particularly beautiful room. And then the main lounge was also really beautiful. Like most ships, the main lounge is really beautiful. That's usually like where they put all of the beauty of the ship, is in the first class main lounge. Fallon says, could White Starline buy out Cunard? There's no way. Cunard owns White Starline. They're the majority of the company. There's no way White Starline could buy it out. Not in their wildest dreams. Wolf Lord says, why are the bottoms of ships painted red? That is what's called the anti-fouling paint. Now, not all anti-fouling paint is red, and not all reds are the same red. Depending on what brand of anti-fouling paint they use, the anti-fouling paint could be blue. I've seen it brown. I've seen it rust red, bright red, like on Queen Mary, and other shades of red. So, but yeah, blue, red, and brown is what I've seen for the anti-fouling paint. And the anti-fouling paint is not just a layer of paint, it's a special mixture of paint that's designed to be more hardy for being underwater, and it also prevents the hull from getting eaten away by the salt of the sea. Emperor Hirohito says the food I recommend to bring on tea time is called Together Breakfast. Interesting. I've never heard of that before. Ryan says, which was the better design? Queen Mary's 3 funnels or Queen Elizabeth's 2 funnels? That really depends, because if you're asking my opinion is going to be Queen Mary's 3 funnels. But if you're going to ask, like, what is the better design in general, it would have to be Queen Elizabeth's, because Queen Elizabeth's funnels were very specially designed. You know, they had an internal framework designed to keep the funnels upright, whereas Queen Mary relied on funnel stay ropes to keep the funnels in the right shape and position. So, you know, like Queen Elizabeth, they had this like internal skeleton and stuff. So, you know, it really depends on what you're asking, but I prefer the look of Queen Mary's 3 funnels. It's much more traditional, especially with all the funnel stay ropes on it. Queen Elizabeth didn't have funnel stay ropes. She didn't need them. So, and it just looks a lot more modern, and I prefer the classic look. Did SS America sink? Oh, I don't think so. But I don't know. John says, was the Queen Mary auction open to any qualified bidder? If so, couldn't the high bidder have someone whose objective was to scrap her? Yeah, absolutely. The auction was open to anyone. And oftentimes, all these auctions are that way. So even a modern cruise ship, when they get auctioned, it's not like specifically just for scrappers. If a billionaire wanted to come in and place, you know, a bid so that way they could buy the cruise ship, you can. It's just no one does, because no one needs a cruise ship. And the same thing with ocean liners. The auction was open to anyone who wanted to place a bid. It didn't matter who. But generally speaking, not many people placed bids. Nobody wanted an ocean liner. So when Queen Mary was being auctioned, it was never just like exclusively for scrap dealers. It was just for anybody who wanted it. And it turned out there was a lot of regular communities and individuals and cities who wanted to purchase the Queen Mary. And it turned out that Long Beach had the highest bid, you know, and it outbid even the scrappers. And that was something that really threw people off, because, you know, New York was bidding for the Queen Mary. Everyone thought, oh, New York's going to get it. They have the most money. But then this random beachside community of Long Beach, California, back then it wasn't even a huge city, you know? I mean, it was just a city. And it wasn't even that well known. It just, they came out of nowhere, seemingly, and placed a massive bid that was, you know, a whole $500,000 over what New York was bidding. And they got it, you know. Also, Long Beach's plan for the Queen Mary was a lot more attractive to Cunard, because what Manhattan wanted to do was New York, they wanted to turn Queen Mary into a floating high school. So it would have been permanently docked along the banks, and it would have been a high school, and almost everything about it would have been changed. You know, there was also a millionaire who was trying to place a bid. He wanted to buy both Queen Mary and Queen Elizabeth, permanently weld them together to create the world's largest catamaran. Eccentric, I know, but that's what he wanted to do. And, you know, obviously his bid didn't go anywhere. But Long Beach, not only did they place the highest bid, but they had the most attractive offer, which was that they wanted to preserve the ship as a museum and hotel. And everybody thought that is what Queen Mary should be. And then, of course, when Queen Elizabeth was being up for auction, she was bought by an organization that wanted to turn her into something similar for Florida, but their idea didn't pan out. I think part of the reason why is because in Florida, there wasn't enough visitation. You know, in California, it's different. It's a higher density of people. Lots more people are going down there. There was Disneyland nearby. Like, you know, there was all kinds of things to do in the LA area. But, you know, Fort Lauderdale, Florida, there was really nothing to do. So that's why when some people tell me, they're like, oh, you know, Alex, the reason why Queen Mary is not so successful today is because there's too many tourist attractions in Southern California. She can't compete. The tourism industry doesn't work that way. The tourism industry actually, it works better when there's more tourist attractions in one area, because there's more people visiting that area and there's more reason for people to go and see other things. But, you know, when Queen Elizabeth was in Fort Lauderdale, there was really nothing else to see there besides the beaches. That's it. So no one was coming to the Queen Elizabeth. There was no reason to. And so, you know, Queen Mary, she's been around all this time thanks to other tourist attractions like Universal Studios, Disneyland, other museum ships all around Southern California as well were helping to draw in that tourism. So, you know, tourism is not like, you know, other industries where you can overcrowd it. You know, tourism works best when it's overcrowded. Let's see. Fallon Wills. Yeah, when Queen Mary had sailed into Long Beach, over 5,000 watercraft had come to meet her, which to this day is the largest flotilla of vessels to welcome another ship. There's been no others like it. That alone is a testament to how popular the Queen Mary was. 5,000 watercraft came out to visit the Queen Mary as she sailed into Long Beach Harbor. Unbelievable. You know, and then Captain John Treasure Jones, who was the final captain of Queen Mary, you know, even he was saying, it's amazing, you know, they're giving us space to go by. You know, normally, like, when they would come into New York for, like, the maiden voyage, for instance, you know, ships were crossing in front of Queen Mary. They had to be really careful not to hit anybody. But they said when they came into Long Beach, people had given them so much space to move. It was incredible. He'd never seen anything like it. So, you know, there was this big thing. And then, you know, and then there was the USS Long Beach was there to welcome the Queen Mary. They flew signal flags on the mast. And the signal flags read, "Welcome home, Queen Mary." It was just amazing. It was really amazing. Derpy Possum says, when was that beautiful photo of Queen Mary in San Francisco taken? That's not San Francisco. Queen Mary never went to San Francisco. Well, unless you're asking about Queen Mary 2. I don't know if that's the picture you saw, but the original Queen Mary never went to San Francisco. I do have a picture up, though, of the original Queen Mary passing underneath the Verrazano Narrows Bridge of New York. So the Verrazano Narrows Bridge was built in the 60s, and Queen Mary had to pass underneath it. So, but yeah, the Queen Mary 2 went to San Francisco. I don't remember what year, but I think it was around 2015 she went to San Francisco. So if that's the picture you're talking about, then maybe. But I have like so many pictures going around the screen. I don't remember what they are. Historic Travel says, my great-great-grandfather was the captain of the Olympic. He was 30 years old and his name was Alex. Oh, interesting. Wolf Lord says, why make a ship into a high school? It's just what they wanted to do, I guess. Yeah, most people have no idea what the Olympic is. Like, it's hard because, you know, a lot of ocean liner enthusiasts, they have a misinterpretation of how popular ocean liners are. Because, you know, a lot of ocean liner enthusiasts, they've spent so many years researching ships, they think the ships are more famous than they really are today. So they go around, they go like, oh yeah, like, people would love to see Olympic. Well, most people have no idea what Olympic is. You know, like, you know, they look at any ship, even they look at Queen Mary, they think she's Titanic, you know. It's really silly, you know. So, yeah, a lot of ocean liner enthusiasts, they aren't really in touch with what the public knows about ships. So, I remember I made this video called, like, why did ocean liners disappear? And I did it because I know that there's a lot of people out there who have no idea why ocean liners disappeared. In fact, most people don't even know that there's a difference between an ocean liner and a cruise ship. Most people don't know that. They think that it's just a word you use, ocean liner versus cruise ship. Like, they have no idea. So I made that video for the beginners to know, like, this is why ocean liners no longer exist. This is the difference between ocean liners and cruise ships. And there's people who are like, oh, this is so obvious, you'd have to be an idiot not to know. And I'm like, no. There's a first time for everything. Not everybody is born automatically coming out of the womb going, oh yeah, I know the difference between an ocean liner and a cruise ship, you know. Can you imagine if a baby did that? Like, but, you know, it's like, so that's why I make the videos I make on my channels. It's for people who want to learn that stuff. Wolf Lord says, did Queen Mary have any sister ships? Technically, no. Queen Mary didn't have any sister ships, but she did have a companion ship, which was the Queen Elizabeth. Queen Elizabeth is not a true sister ship, but she's a companion ship because she was built with the same basic designs as Queen Mary. And, I mean, it's really weird. By doing some minor shifting around, you could almost completely replicate the Queen Mary's interiors out of the Queen Elizabeth's interiors. So, you know, they were very, very similar ships. And so that's why they're called companion ships, but they're not called sister ships, just because they're just not the same. Olympic and Titanic were sister ships, but Queen Mary and Queen Elizabeth were just companion ships. And then there's running mates. And an example of a running mate would be Mauretania 2 from 1938. So Mauretania 2 was introduced in 1938, and that was a running mate to the Queen Mary. So it doesn't look anything like Queen Mary, but it's operated by the same ship line, so it's a running mate, but it's not a companion ship and it's not a sister ship. Ian said, I saw Queen Mary 2 in San Francisco, I think 2006. Yeah, probably. She does a world tour, and when she goes on her world tours every 2 years, I think it is, or maybe it's every year, I'm not really sure. But when she does her world tours, one of the stops is San Francisco. Fallon Will says, Alex, is the OG Queen Mary faster than Queen Mary 2? Oh, absolutely. Queen Mary 2's top speed is 30, just over 30 knots is the Queen Mary 2's top speed. The original Queen Mary could do 32.84 knots. So that's a whole 2 knots faster than the Queen Mary 2. And even then, Queen Mary was known for overclocking speed. I don't even know if that's a real term for ocean liners, but it's where by disregarding the during the Second World War, when they passed through certain areas that were known for being submarine infested, what they would do is they would disregard the safety valves and safety systems that prevented overpressurization and overspeed. And what they did was they would run the Queen Mary full out with building as much steam pressure as they could. And it's been documented that at times Queen Mary reached 38 knots when she would sprint through a dangerous area during World War II. Granted, again, that's by disregarding the safety systems. So, but with the safety systems on during normal peacetime passenger service, her fastest achievable speed was just over 32 knots. I do believe in the 1950s, they did try to beat her fastest known speed, and I do believe that they did reach almost 33 knots. Almost 33 knots at one point in the 1950s. With passengers on board. So, but yeah, World War II, it's been documented that she went 38 knots when sprinting through a submarine-infested area. So that's pretty cool. Wolfpack's Games says, what is your least favorite Cunard ship? That I know of, least favorite Cunard ship that I know of would have to be probably Sylvania. Yeah, Sylvania. But again, that's just of the ships I know. There's probably worse ones than Sylvania, but but Sylvania is the least favorite that I know of. Yeah. James Guy Photography says, found video of the submarine ride that was the Queen Mary in the 80s. It's in this 1980 commercial for Queen Mary tour. If you could send me a link to that video, James, I would love that, because I've been looking for it. I know that there was footage in a commercial of people getting on the submarine ride at the Queen Mary. So I would love to see that. So if you could send me the link to that, I have my email is in the description below, or you could send me a comment or something. I need to get that footage. So let me know. Fallon says, Alex, has the Queen Mary met the Queen Mary 2? Yes, in 2015, during one of the world tours that the Queen Mary 2 was doing, the Queen Mary 2 arrived in Long Beach and blew its whistles at the original Queen Mary, and the original Queen Mary sounded back her whistles at the Queen Mary 2. It was a really historic event. Really cool. I wish I could have been there to see it, but what was I doing in 2015? Oh, I was working at the Blue Bayou at Disneyland. So yeah, Fallon, there's something you need to learn about the Titanic. No. There's something you need to learn about the ocean liner community. There's a lot of conspiracy theories regarding Titanic. In my opinion, my advice to you is try not to delve down those rabbit holes, because it's just a lot of fake information. I do not like conspiracy theories. They're often very unfounded. There's very little real proof behind anything that is being said. So, if I were to give you any advice, it's don't pay any attention to these conspiracy theories. Usually what you read about in terms of ocean liners is the truth. It's what you get. It's the truth, because there's very little reason for people to lie to each other about ocean liners. So yeah, I wouldn't put any stock in these things about like, oh, Britannic was actually Titanic, or or they swapped Olympic with Titanic, and it's just conspiracy. I can't stand conspiracy theories. Rytopia says, why do all Cunard ships have the same curved front superstructure design? Is it just a signature look? No, it's not just a signature look. I mean, it kind of has become a signature look, but it started off because Cunard ships were racehorses. You know, they raced across the Atlantic, and they needed to be aerodynamic. So, you know, some of the first Cunard ships to adopt the curved superstructure were Mauretania and Lusitania. And ever since then, they've built their ocean liners with a curved superstructure, and that was to be more aerodynamic, so that way they could race through the water faster. So, so yeah, that's and in a way it has become a signature look for them, but they still do it for the same reasons, being aerodynamic. Fallon Will says, Alex, is Queen Mary the unsinkable ship? No, I would never call a ship unsinkable. All ships have an Achilles heel. Everything mankind builds has an Achilles heel. Something will always be the weakness of a structure. So I would never use the term unsinkable for a ship at all. Was Queen Mary very resilient to sinking? Yes, I would say that. Queen Mary was extremely resilient to sinking due to all the redundancy of safety she's been built with. You know, so, but yeah, I would never call a ship unsinkable. Fallon says, Alex, what ships are on your poster? The top is Queen Mary in New York, and the bottom is Queen Elizabeth in Southampton. Wolf Lord says, I heard the only reason Titanic had a fourth funnel was because Lusitania had one. The funnel didn't just serve a decorative purpose. It was also functional. You know, it blew out smoke from the first class smoking room, as well as ventilated the kitchens of Titanic. So it really did blow smoke out of the ship, just not boiler smoke. But there is truth that they made sure Titanic had a fourth funnel because people associated four-funneled ships with speed. Now, Lusitania and Mauretania were not the first four-funneled ships. Not at all. There were four-funneled ships even in the 1800s. Or no, turn of the century, I would say, actually. Turn of the century. But yeah, so Titanic had a fourth funnel because by that point, a lot of people associated four-funneled ships with speed. And that's what they wanted. They wanted Olympic-class ships to be associated with speed, even though they weren't going to race for the ribbon. Derpy says, Titanic was sunk via a magic EMP blast from JP Morgan's private UFO, which he then used to rob all the passengers before flying off in his Nazi moon base at the edge of the flat Earth with JFK. Wow. That says it all, everybody. That says it all. Oh my gosh. All right, folks, I'm going to end the live stream now because it has been 2 hours. I am feeling sleepy and I still have a lot of work to do today. So, but yeah, so thank you guys so much for watching. The next tea time will be this Sunday at 4 p.m. Keep an eye out for my Benson Hotel video, which will be this Friday. And then Saturday will be the live stream Queen Mary Tech 101. And it'll be about the boilers of Queen Mary. So keep an eye out for all of that. And yeah, I will see you all later, you guys. Bye-bye.